I love how it has to start like this every time because I have to reach in. Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my podcast, the podcast with no name, because I genuinely can't decide. Literally anything that has my name in it, Kat, Katie, whatever. Fun fact, when I was in secondary school, I made people call me Kat because of Sam and Cat, Ariana Grande, because I was a massive fan, and people thought I was weird. Today we're going to be having a conversation about ADHD and neurodivergency and growing up undiagnosed with any form of neurodivergency. Specifically, I'll be talking about ADHD and a little bit about autism, but they're kind of what I, feel like I have the knowledge to talk about. So, but I do feel like it could apply to any form of like neurodivergency, to be honest, because, growing up with any disorder, undiagnosed, I've got a really itchy leg tattoo. If you can hear me scratching, I'm really sorry. I feel like growing up with any form of neurodivergency undiagnosed is a journey in itself. And I think it ends up giving you problems later in life that like you didn't even realize you had. So we're going to be talking about some anecdotes, how I realized that I had ADHD, how that came about, why it took me so long to be diagnosed, how I struggle. I think a lot of people that either have ADHD or suspect they have ADHD will relate to this. Before we get in, I just wanted to say as well, if you do think you have ADHD, let this be your video to really think about getting on the list, because the way I see it is like people get mad about like people encouraging people to get diagnosed if they think they have it, because it's like, oh, look, everyone's got it these days. But at the end of the day, they're not going to diagnose you if you don't have it. And even if you somehow manage to get diagnosed, like, and it was incorrect, you'll get put on meds and you'll be like cracked out. So like there's no way, like, I don't know, I just don't see the point in like gatekeeping it, because first of all, I'm sorry, in my experience, having ADHD is fucking miserable. So it's not something that you want. Let's just put it that way. And let's just start from the beginning. So for me, I just want to first, I guess, give some context. I was diagnosed with ADHD like 3 weeks ago now, maybe a month ago. But it was a year and a half ago that I actually went to the doctors. But I went to the doctors because I felt like shit, basically. So my mental health, like growing up, is like, it's never been like amazing. It's never been insane. Is this recording audio? Yes, it is. It's never been great. I had bad mental health like growing up, and then in my early teenage years, and then in my late teenage years. So I never really thought much of it. I just thought like, I'm just a miserable bastard, to be honest. And I suffered with anxiety on and off as well. So I just wasn't the happiest person. But it wasn't until a year and a half ago that like I went back to the doctors. I'd already been, because I got sertraline and they put me on sertraline because I was depressed. But that time of depression was like for a reason. It was because, you guys know my past relationship, I was like struggling really hard. So I went on sertraline. But usually anytime there's been like a huge depression, it's been because of a reason. So I didn't ever really understand why I would go through these like phases of depression for like no reason at all. I'd always be like, what is wrong with me? Like nothing's going on. Why do I feel so shit? So I went to the doctors and I said, listen, doc, all right, I've got a problem. I said, I just feel down and anxious and I can't do anything. And it's not that I'm like depressed. I've had depression. I know what it's like, because you know what the doctors are like. They're like, yeah, just go on sertraline. It's fine. So I was like, I'm not depressed. I don't know what the problem is. I feel like I'm consistently, like, I can't shut my brain down. And literally, I had like a 5-minute conversation, and I wasn't going into the doctors thinking like, oh, I've got like ADHD, like this is definitely what it is. And the doctor was like, by the way, like, have you been diagnosed with ADHD or autism or anything? And I was like, no. And he was like, okay. And I was like, damn, really throwing shade here. So he was like, well, I'm going to refer you. And I was like, and I genuinely like, I've never really been someone who's been like, oh, I really think I have it. Like, I'd never thought about that until obviously I had the diagnosis. And then I was like, I've been through this journey of being like, what the actual frick? Because, in the assessment, they asked you questions about your childhood. And I was like, oh my God, now my whole life is beginning to make sense. So after I was like in this process of, filling out forms about it and them asking me questions, it really guided my mind through a lot of my behaviors that I hadn't and I feel like I'm a relatively self-aware person. Like I'm pretty good at detecting like my bad habits, my bad personality traits. Like I've been in therapy for so many years of my life. I'm pretty like, yeah, I'm just pretty, I think I'm self-aware. I hope. So I was like answering these questionnaires and I'm just out here like, oh my God, I did not know these things were related. So then I went in this big deep dive into like ADHD, growing up undiagnosed. And the biggest like, I think shock for me was as a child, I was like described as a problem child, bossy, loud, argumentative, annoying, attention seeking, difficult. Like my nickname when I went to Brownies, Girl Guides, was the village voice. At parents' evenings, like people would always be like the teachers would always be like, oh, she just won't, she's got loads of potential. She just won't lock in properly. And it's like, oh. And then just through school, like looking back, I really, really found it difficult to just sit down and focus. So when I was in primary school, this was the only time where I was like gifted. And I was gifted and talented. And me and this girl called Evie, shout out to whoever, wherever she is right now, we were like, our like reading and like English literature, English language and spelling age was like crazy advanced compared to everyone else. And I loved English. I made it like my special interest. I was absolutely fascinated by it. I adored it. I always loved my English teachers throughout every school. So I really loved English. And when I was in primary, I excelled. I went to secondary school and I was like, damn, I'm really not the best anymore. And then it was all downhill from there. Like, I mean, to be fair on me, like in secondary school, I feel like I wasn't focused on like my education or like how I was actually struggling education wise to like keep up with work because I was being bullied. I grew up very overweight, so going to a secondary school when you're fat is literally not it. So yeah, I feel like I was so distracted by being bullied and having friendship issues that were also probably because of my ADHD that I just didn't really deep what was going on with my education. And then obviously all people thought when they were going to my parents' evenings was she just won't shut up, which was again because I couldn't focus and do what needed to be done to get me the grades I needed to get. So I quickly realized as I went into secondary school, okay, I'm not as good as I thought I was. If I'm not the best, I don't even want to do it. That was the biggest thing for me. Like if and I'm still like that now, if I'm not the best at something, bye. Like I don't want to do it. And I felt like that a lot in secondary school, like when I went into my English class and there's all these incredible, crazily smart people and I'm like, damn. I guess I'm no longer that great. And because I didn't have that push of dopamine to keep going doing this subject that I thought I was sick at, I was just like, okay, whatever. So I quickly lost focus. Never did my work on time, never handed stuff in on time, was always in trouble for being disorganized. And like, don't get me wrong, some people are just like that. So that's why I didn't ever think anything of it, and neither did my parents. I also kept a lot from my parents, Obviously, when I was getting in trouble, I never told them. I was very good at worming my way out of things. But also in general, I had issues with like my anger as a child quite badly. It caused a lot of relationship problems for my family. Like I actually feel really, I joke about it, but I feel very bad because I was a very argumentative, not very easily manageable child. And again, now I look back and like, I was suffering with really bad sensory issues that I didn't understand. I was really bad with like friends, which is kind of where the potential autism comes into it. I hated school. So all of this like terrible school life, which I genuinely believe now was because of my ADHD, I'd go home. My parents, I have a younger sister as well who, love her, my pride and joy, who is disabled. She has cerebral palsy. So, my parents were very, very busy looking after my sister, rightfully so. She was in and out of hospital all the time, bless her, scans, physiotherapy, etc. So my parents were always very focused on her. So I think, and I don't blame my parents for this, like I always talk about this, my parents didn't have a handbook of like how to parent. So when they have a child with a disability, you're gonna put so much more like attention, I think, onto that child. And I'm glad they did because she deserves it. And also like I was just being a brat, regardless of what the reason was. So I think my parents, especially my mum, like I know she feels kind of bad. Like she talks to me now and she's like, I feel like I should have seen the signs of it. And I'm like, well, because when I was younger, I could easily handle it because I didn't know about ADHD. As I've gone into adulthood, someone put a bullet in my head. Sorry, that's really dark. Don't do that, please. As I've got older and older, these problems became more and more problematic, more and more detrimental to my everyday life. So in terms of like having ADHD and being an adult, I mean, when I obviously went to this appointment and I've been diagnosed and stuff, I really have just been sat back and been like, okay, this is why I am the way that I am. And I think a lot of people with ADHD will know the feeling of growing up and being like, something is wrong with my brain. Something is not right in my brain. I can find you diary entries of when I would write being like, something's missing from my life. There's something wrong with me. I don't know what it is. Something is not quite right. Something is like different, like I'm different. And again, I know anybody that is the type of person to think that ADHD is like something people just claim to have for fun will never get this. But I always felt like the odd one out. And again, a lot of this overlaps with my autism. I haven't been diagnosed yet, but I'm in the process of being diagnosed with autism. So I can't sit there and say I have it because I really don't know. But that's the second part of the video. We'll get to that. But see, I can't even remember what I was saying now. This is embarrassing. Yeah, I think just growing up, I always knew. Like, I didn't know it was ADHD, but I knew there was something. And again, friendships I really struggled with. And I think it was, again, because I couldn't regulate my emotions as well as other people. And my brain just felt like it really worked in a weird way. And as I went to university, and I honestly, I do not know how I got through uni. I know a lot of people say that, but I got through by fluke. I genuinely got through by the skin of my teeth. Is that the phrase? Like, some things I did pretty well in. Like, I really took an interest in television and I edited this documentary about bingo. Sounds thrilling. And I actually really enjoyed that. And I put a lot of time into it because it became like a good interest of mine and I got a lot of dopamine from doing it. So that was good. But other than that, like, Christ, everyone with ADHD will know submitting essays the day of in the morning is one of the craziest things. And this anecdote, like, like everyone with ADHD has that one anecdote where they're like, how was that not such a sign I had ADHD? There was this one time where I had a 2.5K word essay, which sounds like not that bad, but it's many, many pages. And I was like putting it off for so long and it was about radio or some bullshit. So I waited and waited and waited. And then it got to the morning of it got to the night of, it was like 11 p.m. and I was like, oh shit, like I still haven't done it. It was due at 9 a.m. Right? So I'm sat there in the like student communal area writing my essay, watching Euphoria for some reason, like weird. And I had a friend at the time who had some pregabalin, which is some like stimulants or something. So I popped a few of them, right? But then my heart was going too fast halfway through the essay. But boy, I was writing fast. I was impressive. I'm not going to lie. So I'm just like speeding along writing this essay. My heart's going insane. So I took a couple of Xanax to like calm my heart. This is not like a flex. This is embarrassing. So yeah, I finished this essay in like a few hours. Crazy, by the way. I got a C, but then the tutor guy like was going through marking it and he just put like question mark and I was like maybe I should just be honest and be like, sorry, I was on drugs when I wrote this. But I did that loads of times, not the drugs, FYI. I only did that once. But I did essays like all the time, just like last minute. And again, like people do that. That's not just inherently an ADHD thing, but for me it definitely was because it was like, how the am I going to sit here and do that? What do I get from this shit? I can sit and doom scroll. I would rather rot my brain away. That's more fun. So that happened a lot. I had to do so many extendable deadlines, even like just general like admin, like paying my rent and stuff and like signing up to like curriculums. I remember in my first week, because I actually moved uni. When I was in my first uni, I went to University of Liverpool. I actually didn't go to my uni classes in first year for a week. Number one, because I couldn't find the classes. I didn't know where to get my timetable from. I was enrolled on a Spanish course. Don't ask me why. I just want to learn Spanish. Like, gracias and all that. But I never did Spanish because I was a week late to going to my lessons. So by the time I enrolled and actually turned up, they had done a week's worth of content. And I was like, well, yeah, I can't do that now. Because I couldn't figure out where the classes were. I couldn't figure out how to get my forms. And I was just like, this is just too much. I'm just not going to go. So I literally spent the first week doing nothing, crying, because I was like, why have I come to university? It was literally horrible. This is a separate episode. If you guys want me to talk about university, please say you want me to. I have so many stories and reasons why you shouldn't go. No, I'm joking, but my experience was like dog ass, seriously. Anyway, I barely fucking went in. And then when I actually switched unis, it was a little bit better, but again, not much better. I just never did anything. I failed first year because I never went in. I appealed. They did let me in because of mitigating circumstances. But it was just ass. Like, I was just ass at education. I remember being like, in second year, I was like, F this, I'm out. But all my friends and my family were like, hey, come on, you're so close. So I was like, okay. But I don't know how I got that far. All my attendance too was like 40% or something. I don't know how I passed. I got a 2-2 in the end, but like, I don't know how. I do not deserve that degree. Like, Hope University, you can revoke that, seriously. I probably just used ChatGPT all the way through, to be honest. So that was really sucky. But something I really wanted to talk about was, and this isn't going to be relevant to everybody, but to me it was, because like, what the helly, seriously. Everybody knows about my relationship that I was in. Hopefully you know that by now. I've spoke about it a lot. I was in an abusive relationship, which I'm not really meant to be talking about online anymore. So I'm going to keep it to the minimum. For now is the key word. For now, touch wood. So I was in an abusive relationship. I'm going to talk about it anyway, because fuck you. I was in an abusive relationship anyway, so I was having a really rough time at uni. And during that relationship, I was always like, I'm struggling because that person who I was with was also neurodivergent. And I was just like, how do you be so productive? Like, seriously, I don't understand. I was like, I think I've got something wrong with me. I think the only times I ever doubted maybe I had like ADHD was like in my uni years when I was with that person. And I said to him, like, I think I've got maybe like some form of neurodivergency. I just don't know what, because I'm not very educated. And he was like, you don't have it. I know neurodivergent people. I'm autistic. I've been autistic my entire life. You don't have ADHD. And I was like, okay. Like, I just, like, bro was like the guru of neurodivergency. So I was just like, okay, cool. Like, I'm guessing I don't. So that was it. I just shut up and I was like, okay, I'm just a lazy loser. And I never thought twice about it again. Fuck you, bitch, because look at me now. You know? So thank God I, like, first of all, got out of that relationship, because I never would have had a diagnosis. But like, now looking back, I'm like, wow. Like, I should have followed my instinct, like never listened to a man. So that was crazy anyway. I think like asking people for advice about whether you think you're neurodivergent can be a good thing. Like, after I started to talk to all my friends, especially my creative friends, they were like, yeah, of course you, like they'd say to me like, yeah, Katie, like you don't even need a diagnosis. I'll diagnose you right now. And the same thing happens with autism. This is like a separate thing, but I'll kind of get onto that. When I got my ADHD diagnosis, I was like, okay, this is cool, but this still doesn't explain a lot of things. I really struggled with sensory issues, like brightness. Like, even now I'm dying with this light. My social abilities are pretty good. But that's, again, I'm so great at masking at this point. And I think something that's really interesting about my commentary videos is, you know, people see me, I don't want to say normal, because you guys are like, Kate, we do not see you normal, but my videos are, I mask quite well in my videos. The only people that I fully can unmask around when it comes to my just neurodivergency in general is like my boyfriend and my family. They are the only people on this planet that have seen the real me. And I struggled for a really long time with neurodivergency, because I always felt like, especially because of the sensory issues and how it would sometimes cause me to have like literal meltdowns. I remember when I was getting an ADHD diagnosis, the line for Psych UK was always keeping me on hold for like 2 hours. And this one time it was like 2.5 hours and I was on the phone, and there was so much going on in my house. I was on the phone. I was getting so overstimulated by the call music. My partner was like, hey, like, just call back. And I was like, I can't, like, I've gone this far. And I had an actual like meltdown. And when I have that, like, it always makes me feel like a child. It makes me feel so like infant-like. And like, especially when my partner has to like make me feel better. It's like, God, I'm such a child. And I don't know, it always made me feel like I'm perceived, especially around girls, as like a child. And I think that's why I always struggled with friendships, because I was always like, all these girls are so grown up and like normal, and like they can go out for drinks and socialize, and they don't get tired, and they're not like masking, they just get to be themselves. They don't have to plan everything they're saying. They're not awkward. They're not like stimming and fidgeting. Because there's another thing like that I really struggle with is when I was younger, and no one ever understands what I mean by this. When I was in primary school, I used to get this thing in my legs, and it would be like I'd feel the need to tense them really hard when I'd get like excited or like overwhelmed. And it would like really like I couldn't keep still, so I'd always get shouted at for fidgeting. When I've got older, I still get that now. The way I expel that is like, this is why I find it really like embarrassing to talk about, but fuck it, like maybe people will relate, or even if you don't, just please don't judge me. But like I just stim. And now a lot of people talk about stimming and neurodivergency, and people overuse it all the time. And like stimming, like people think stimming is like just quoting things, but like it's, for me, it's, I see right now in this podcast, and if you watch my videos, you will see it, I think, quite a lot. I really, I struggle with controlling my face, and I carry a lot of tension in my eyes and my forehead. And I genuinely have been considering getting, like, and everyone's going to make, don't do that, but like, just hear me out. Like some Botox in my eyebrows to just relieve the pressure, because my face from masking, from not letting my face just do whatever it wants, is so tense. I remember when I went to the doctors, they like felt like the muscles on my face, and they were like, your face just feels like really tight. This is so random, but this is what I mean when I say like neurodivergency isn't this funny quirky thing. Like it causes me everyday issues. I do this thing, and I spoke about this on TikTok all the time, where like I'll do this with my eyebrows because it relieves pressure, and I'll roll my eyes around, and I've been doing that since a kid, and it just almost helps me like just like regulate myself and calm down, and like just like relax my face is the only way to describe it. And yeah, I don't know. And alongside I don't know if it's necessarily a stim, but I tear my lips to pieces, and again, just vocally making sounds all the time and struggling to communicate. Like, I don't think people realize, like, I'm very, very good at appearing neurotypical. Everyone's gonna be like, Katie, fuck off. No, you're not. But like, I can socialize, and I can, I can be pretty normal, and I think I was always so scared that people were going to think I was weird. This is before I even knew I was neurodivergent, because people used to call me weird at school all the time. That's why I found like this whole like weird girl, like it's so cool to be a weird girl trend really weird, because I was just like, it just seems so performative to me, like especially when I hide myself a lot and I mask a lot, and I want to be able to at some point alleviate that like online, but it's hard because like I've seen firsthand how neurodivergent people, when they're not masking, how they are treated and how they're viewed, and like I just don't want to be seen as a child, especially when I talk about really serious things online. Like I don't want people to see me as like some like, I don't want them to like infantilize me, like I don't know. But that's, I guess, my feelings about being neurodivergent is it's difficult. It's really difficult. It's not fun and games. I really don't know why people like paint it out to be, especially with my ADHD. Like something I was saying to the assessor was that my biggest things, because he was like, like how is your life impacted? And I was like, I struggle with my dopamine levels. Obviously that's a big part of ADHD, but my coping mechanisms are very, very bad. So when I was younger, my ADHD coping mechanisms in terms of like my mental health in general, and like what I would do to cope. I mean, I used to self-harm. I don't know if I've spoke about that a lot, but I was very addicted to self-harm growing up. Again, painting a very good picture of my childhood. I met a girl. I used to run a guinea pig account on Instagram, and I met a girl who was about 19 when I was about 12 or 13. Even my parents don't know this, I think. And we were really good friends, and she used to self-harm. Well, I thought we were good friends. Obviously, looking back, very odd. She used to send me pictures of her self-harm, and she would, like, basically I was like 13, and I'd be like up at like 2 a.m. texting her being like, please don't kill yourself, like, please don't self-harm. And she'd show me. That introduced me to self-harm as like a technique and like a coping mechanism. Sometimes it was when I was being bullied really hard, and like I just as a kid did not know how to manage my emotions whatsoever, because quite frankly I didn't understand my emotions. That was the biggest thing, and something I still deal with now is like my body just does not connect to what I'm feeling. So like I'll be lying in bed sometimes really like anxious, and I'm like, what's wrong? Like I can't, like, am I sad, am I anxious, am I angry? Like I can't tell. So especially as a kid, I just did not know how to handle that. So I just myself, probably not the best coping mechanism. And then, you know, even if I was not sad, but I just felt really empty, it was just like a way to cope. And then the school found out, and they just kind of told me off and then rang my mum. So cheers. But as I got older, my coping mechanisms, obviously they got better than that, but they still been unhealthy and irresponsible. The biggest thing that I've struggled with in terms of like just dealing with the symptoms of ADHD, especially like a dopamine issue, is spending my money and binge eating. Now I did have a binge eating disorder growing up, which now again my ADHD diagnosis really almost make sense of that, because when I would feel down, when I would feel like low and empty almost, I would eat. When I'd be sad, I would eat. When I just want like a rush of like happiness, I would eat. So then I ended up overweight, which then gave me an eating disorder of anorexia. Like, I am so okay. So yeah, as an adult, like spending, I'm extremely irresponsible with my money. If I'm having any low period where I feel like my brain isn't producing enough dopamine and I just need a rush, I'll like online spend, even on stuff I just don't need. And it is bad, and like luckily having a partner gives me a little bit more of like financial pressure, so I can't just willy-nilly spend. And I am getting better, especially now that I've like set up different accounts and stuff. But spending has always been like my kryptonite. It's like feeling low, spend some money. Feeling sad, spend some money. Feeling empty, spend some money. Or it's been other forms of dopamine like sex, and you know, like like in the past, I don't do this anymore because I'm on a healing journey, but I used to kind of just like, I feel empty inside, I've got no dopamine, I'll just have sex, why not? Even if I didn't really want to. So I've definitely always been bad at using things that give you dopamine that maybe you shouldn't be using. Like, I love the gym. Like, bitch, why don't you just go to the gym and lift some weights? Like, I do go to the gym, but I don't use that as like a dopamine source. I use that as a routine thing, and just because I love lifting weights, you know? So I've always been bad. I've made a list of things I wanted to talk about because I feel like this is what professionals do, and I'm trying to be professional. Yeah. So that kind of leads me like talking about, you know, coping mechanisms, and especially stuff that just gives me fast dopamine. It kind of leads me to other symptoms that I suffered with and dealt with, like impulsivity, you know, especially regarding my appearance. I've always been like someone who seeks dopamine from changing my appearance, whether it's like a crazy haircut, dyeing my hair like at 11 p.m. or like cutting it myself, or you know, not being able to wait. So like if I'm like, right, I want this, I have to have it now, I have to do it now, I need the rush of doing it now. Like when I dyed my hair black again, I literally did that for some random reason, then like the next day cried all day because I was like, I don't even know why I did that, I didn't want to do it. So like I've always been very impulsive, and like, you know, sometimes that's good, but other times it's got me into a lot of trouble. Like even with my YouTube, I think having like a high sense of justice, especially, you know, a lot of neurodivergent people will understand that, combined with impulsivity, has led me to do some silly things online. You know, as you guys will know, it's not like I've been controversy free. I've had my fair share of a tiny little bit of drama where I definitely should have kept my mouth shut and just stayed out of stuff, really, that did not concern me. No matter how I felt about it, I should have just stayed out of some stuff. Obviously now I've gotten a lot better of being like, okay, sit back, evaluate how you feel, don't just feel like you've got to do something immediately because your brain says you have to. So I'm definitely getting a lot better at that. And, you know, identifying that it's been ADHD, I think that's caused me to, not caused me because I don't want to like, you know, a lot of my behaviors, like, you know, I should know better, especially with like, just like silly things like impulsivity, like spending money, like they're all things I can control. It's not like I'm like uncontrollably doing things, but it's just like ADHD almost just makes it so that like, it's like, it does it for you. You're like on autopilot. My ADHD brain is kind of the pioneer for my body. I don't really work based off of how I feel and what I want to do. Everything is like based off of my brain. I don't know if any of that made any sense, but yeah, I'm just a very impulsive person who has that has definitely got me in trouble a lot. And I'm just really working on, I guess, thinking before I act, thinking before I do things, thinking before I speak. What else have I got? Oh, the biggest thing I struggle with, which is just mundane day-to-day life stuff, is like keeping myself organized and tidy. Like, I feel like I've spoken about this before on social media, but the way I like operate in my house with like chores and stuff is like, I will have periods of time where I tidy up after myself, maybe for like 2 days in a row. Then I'll let my house get absolutely diabolical. And then I'll do a really deep clean after it's unbearable. And then it won't last a day. And I do that on repeat. And then maybe after a week, I'll have a meltdown because I think, why am I like this? Why can't I be normal? Why can't I just clean up after myself? Why do I seem like a big lazy fuck? Like, it would always be like, why am I like this? And then the next day I'll be depressed because I think I'm broken. And then a few days later I'll be like, you know what? Cool. We're vibing. And then it's a cycle. And then the best way I've described my life is like cycles of ups and downs, hating my life and then loving it, being anxious and thinking my life's over and I'm going to die, and then being great and happy and spending money and not giving up and having dopamine rushes that make me feel like I'm on top of the world. Which comes, I guess, into my up and down moods, which I've always had. I mean, there was literally one point when I was in my last relationship, I thought I'd BPD, but that's just because that person was a twat and I thought I was going crazy. But something I briefly mentioned before that I wanted to go back over was just the binge eating and like how food has always been a source of comfort to me and still is now. Obviously, as you guys will know, I'm on like a fitness journey. Fitness dick in your mouth. I absolutely love the gym. And honestly, anybody with neurodivergency, anyone in general, to be honest, highly also, I hope you really like my second Swarovski Ariana Grande necklace. It eats. Anybody that, just anyone, the gym has changed my life. And I hate to sound like one of those fucking gym bros, but truly it really has. I have so much more confidence in I have bad days, obviously, but the gym helps me really take control of my eating and my binge eating, mainly because I have like priorities, and like the gym is just a big interest I have where I'm like very into the science behind muscle gain and stuff. So it has really helped me with the binge eating because like, I mean, I can't do that because I won't get where I want to get. And also I've learned how bad it is for your body, and like I've almost learned how to manage it. But I definitely still have food as a comfort source. Like there'll be days where I'm like flatlining and I'm like, my life is so empty. I'm like, let's eat or spend money or both. The best days are where you go out and spend money and eat. So yeah, binge eating, God, like I wish I had more awareness when I was younger about why maybe I was eating so much, because I was never eating because I was hungry. It was literally for dopamine. Like I could be full and I'm like, well, there's nice stuff on my plate and I like the happy feeling I get when I eat it, so I'm going to keep eating it. And again, that's not always the reason for obesity and overeating. Sometimes you just love food. Like, fair enough. But for me, you know, looking back, especially now, it makes a lot of sense. That's definitely probably what it was. And again, one of the biggest issues that actually kind of made me go to the doctors in the first place was my sleep. I have struggled with my sleep my entire life. I think the last time I had a good night's sleep was probably in primary school. My brain just does not be quiet ever. It never shuts off. It's either playing vocal stems on repeat in my head or anxiously ruminating, like in rumination 101, where my brain is just like worrying, overthinking, can't shut down, keeps playing over and over like the same thoughts, the same anxieties, my to-do list, what I'm upset about, everything's just like, it's like going into a record shop and every record is playing a different record. That's how I would describe my brain. and it makes it really difficult to not get overstimulated, to not find it hard to focus, to be able to sleep. Just sleeping, I never sleep throughout the night. I think I started to track my sleep cycle, and I get maybe like 4 minutes of deep sleep. I bought loads of melatonin online. I've tried every sleep hack there is, and I have days where it's better, but for the most part, God no, my sleep just sucks ass. I could never get my brain to quieten down. When I was younger, like I remember when I was in primary and I'd like come home and like manage to like unwind, and I can remember the feeling of like having empty head. I cannot I can't remember the last time I had that. Like my brain is just, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like bees in there. So it definitely makes life harder when you just can't shut your brain down at all, because it's really hard to focus, and it makes, especially because I have quite bad anxiety that's come on over the past couple of years. Since doing social media, funnily enough, it's very hard to shut those anxieties down when your brain is just like forcing you and pumping you full of anxiety. So yeah, I don't know. They're the main things, I guess. I feel like I've just rambled on for like half an hour just speaking at you. I feel like this alone is just like ADHD core, so I really do apologize if this has been hard to follow. But I watched, is it the ADHD love couple, Rory and Rox, I think their names are, and I watched their video about growing like up with undiagnosed ADHD, which is what inspired me to do this one, because I cried watching both of them talk about I can't remember who's Rory and who's Rox. I don't know. I'm so sorry. But the girl basically saying her experiences and how she felt, and I literally sobbed, and my partner he didn't even like have to ask, he just knew that like it resonated with me so much, because it just, I don't know, it kind of just really hurt to see, like I was like, why did I not know? You know, I feel like I just wasted so much of my childhood just like feeling like an odd one out and feeling like my brain's just like crazy and doesn't work properly, and I think it just cost me a lot growing up, especially friendships. I mean, I've really like, I had one friend growing up who I really liked, and like I attached myself to her. She probably thought I was a weirdo. Well, she did. Like she ditched me so fast when she realized I was a loser. So shout out to her. But I really liked her. Like I clung to her like flies on shit, because I just didn't know how to make any other friends, and I met her at such a young age that I didn't have to make any other friends. So I valued that friendship a lot, and I didn't want to lose that friend, because I was like, then I'm gonna have to make new friends. I don't know how to do that. And then that did happen, and then I never really made any like true friends like that. I say true friends, we were so young, but you know what I mean. Like I never made any like besties like I did with her. And I've just always struggled with making friends. I'm better now in my 20s because I've learned how to just unmask, and like at the end, well, kind of learned how to unmask. And I always think, look, if people think I'm a weirdo and that I'm like annoying or too much, like we're not going to be friends anyway. So like it's best to just be yourself when you're around people, because then you just warm to people. Like I recently made a friend who I visited once. We met in Liverpool. You guys know Unk, Shocky Pigeon Girl. If you don't know who that is, you're going to be like, what? But we just had like the best time. I was like, this is the first time I've met a friend where I'm like 99% unmasked. Well, no, that's a lie, like 70%. But that's the biggest thing for me, is just finding friends and being like, hey, my brain works kind of weird. I don't want you to think I'm a weirdo. I don't want to go out drinking. I don't do nightclubs. I can't do busy places. Like all of these lists of things that, you know, seem high maintenance, but they're not. Like I'm an easy friend to maintain. There's certain things I can't do for sensory reasons or like energy level reasons, because my energy levels are just always ass. Even now, like, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm just getting really tired. Beep boop. So yeah, I guess this is a good place to leave it. Haven't really got anything else to say, but I hope you guys enjoyed episode 2 of my podcast, the podcast with no name. That's not the name, by the way. I just haven't thought of a name yet. If you enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe. What's the other one? Notification bell. I don't know. I'm not a beg, to be honest. And also like leave me suggestions of anything you guys want me to talk about. This is my I don't care about views, I don't care about money segment of my channel. So it really doesn't matter how many people watch it. If even 7 people watch it and they're like, yay, go Katie, like great. That's enough for me. I just enjoy doing this. So if you did enjoy it and you have any recommendations, drop them down below. And yeah. Oh, outfit time. It's very zoomed in. I'll zoom out. Oh, that's in. So I've just got some, this is a terrible angle. Grey trousers, this like vintage top, and these Japan Adidas shoes. I better turn you off. Yeah, I fucking will. Bye. How do I end this?